Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Capitol Hill neighbors are mad their neighborhood has crime. Well, whose fault is that? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I want to ask a question right off the top of the show, and I want your feedback. I want you to call us or text us at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Do you even care about the Epstein files anymore? It's a legit question. I'm tired of talking about it. When I saw this was going down today, I said, really? We're doing this? Look, I think we should know every single thing about what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't disagree with that. I think it should all be revealed. But right now, it seems like everybody's trying to politicize this for their own purposes, and I think it's going to backfire horribly on the Democrats. Let's go through what we actually know. And before that, if you are tired of this or you want it to continue, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. What we know, Jeffrey Epstein was a scumbag. Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty of trafficking young women, young girls for him. That is all we know. Now, since this thing blew up recently, we have found out more. What have we found out? Well, we found out that Hakeem Jeffries, after we knew what Jeffrey Epstein was up to, after everybody knew he was a pervert, that Hakeem Jeffries was soliciting Jeffrey Epstein for donations. Well, should he return those donations? Should he donate them to the victims? I noticed that Hakeem Jeffries today was the one saying on the floor of the U.S. House, maybe we don't want to release all these. Be careful what you wish for. I couldn't help but notice that today, that was happening. Okay. We also know that it turns out that Steve Bannon, the ultimate political social climber, was in good with Jeffrey Epstein. And that Jeffrey Epstein and him were discussing how he could weather the media storm around his indiscretions, around the bad things he did. Pretty bad look right there. What else do we know from these documents? We know that President Trump knew Jeffrey Epstein, and it seemed like that Epstein was trying to blackmail President Trump, but we don't know with what. We don't know if he was just talking. And I will submit that if the Democrats actually had dirt on President Trump that they had in the Epstein files, they would have revealed it sometime when Barack Obama was there, sometime when maybe, I don't know, Joe Biden was there.
Biden.
But no.
Obama.
Exactly. They didn't do any of that. I will stipulate that what I think is happening right now is the Democrats think we don't have a Russia anymore, so we're going to do this instead. That's all I can think of at this point. I see no other reason for that. And this seems like the ultimate bluff. Well, we don't know what's in these files, or we do know what's in these files, but either way, let's expose them. And let's just use them to get Trump. Was there anything in Russia? Was there anything in any of these other scandals they tried to throw at President Trump? No, of course not. Why are they bringing them up now? Because they think this is how we finally get moose and squirrel. That's what they're thinking right now. This is it. We got him this time. It doesn't seem like it's working out that way. We know that President Trump kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. We know that the FBI had a discussion with President Trump where he may have even spilled the beans on Jeffrey Epstein. Or it's the kind of situation where you go, well, I knew the guy was a scumbag. I didn't know he was that big of a scumbag. Let me tell you everything I know. So Chuck Schumer gets asked about this yesterday. Chuck Schumer. Where now we're seeing things where Democrats like Stacey Plaskett. Stacey Plaskett is the rep non-voting rep from the Virgin Islands. She was texting with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was texting her during hearings on the Hill, telling her what to ask. In fact, the video of it was released today, where you see her looking down at her phone and they line up the timestamps. So they're saying she's texting with Jeffrey Epstein on the House floor. On the House floor. Would you like to hear her excuse for this? Here's her excuse.
At the beginning of that hearing, the ranking member, Jim Jordan, had the disrespect to Elijah Cummings, may he rest in peace and his name be a memory, after not allowing Mr. Jordan to shut the committee hearing down. And I turned to Mr. Jordan and told him to have respect for the chair and to basically shut up. And that moment went viral. And I began to get innumerable texts from friends, from foes, from constituents about what was happening in that hearing. And I got a text from Jeffrey Epstein, who at the time was my constituent, who was not public knowledge at that time that he was under federal investigation, and who was sharing information with me. Now, I heard recently from someone that I was seeking advice from him. Let me tell you something. I don't need to get advice on how to question anybody from any individual.
Well, apparently you do, because you kept looking down at the cell phone, and the very things he was texting you is what you were asking the people during the hearing. Is this the new excuse? Oh, he was a constituent. Okay, KVI people, let's put this out to you. How many of you have Jim Walsh's phone number? No, seriously, how many of you have Jim Walsh's phone number? I know Mike does. I know you and I do, okay? How many of you have Representative Michael Baumgartner's phone number? How many of you have, Newhouse's phone number? Oh, how about that? Oh, Mike's like, I got all these numbers. Look how cool I am, right? How many of you have Adam Smith's phone number? Oh, I got that one. But come on, guys. How many of you have these phone numbers? I'm not trying to say, oh, me and Mike are more important than you. We talk with these guys on a regular basis. I'm not saying you shouldn't have your representatives' phone numbers, but do you text with them on a regular basis? You know, most people that call us, even us, and we treat these numbers confidentially when we get them, most people will call us through a landline through their offices because they don't want to give out their cell phone numbers. The fact that she had his cell phone number means she was a lot closer with him than she's letting on. But this is going to be the new excuse. Now, let me ask you this. If, let's say, Ted Cruz was getting texts from Jeffrey Epstein and said, well, he's a constituent, you'd say he didn't live in Texas. But you'd say, why is he getting texts? And the Democrats would be going hardcore on this. They would just say, no, we're going to hit this and hit this and hit this. No, he had a relationship, he had this. No, but this is the new excuse they're going to use. Here's Jimmy Raskin.
Well, they want to give them another headline, which is that they've arraigned a Democratic member for taking a phone call from her constituent, Jeffrey Epstein, in the middle of a hearing. And, of course, I don't think there's any rule here against taking phone calls in a hearing.
Okay, let's do this right now. Even the people whose cell phone numbers we have, Mike, do we ever call them in the middle of hearings? And sometimes, like, for example, today, perfect example, today, I was supposed to have an interview with Representative Baumgartner today. Guess what? He was in a hearing, and he said, Ari, can we reschedule? And, in fact, it was his staffer who said, Ari, can we reschedule? Absolutely. If you're taking them in the middle of a hearing, you must think they're pretty important. Pretty important. You know who's supposed to be testifying on this stuff? Bill and Hillary Clinton. Where were they? Haven't seen them around. They're supposed to be testifying up on Capitol Hill about their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Here's Fox News.
It's a historic move for the Oversight Committee. Just imagine for a moment Bill and Hillary Clinton walking down this very hallway here on the way to their closed-door deposition. That is what this committee wants to see in a matter of weeks, really months here. And they are not alone. We're talking about a long list of big, prominent names, cabinet officials from the Obama Obama era, from the Biden and Trump eras, as this investigation into the Epstein files really gets underway here. Take a look at the list along with me. The Oversight Committee wants to hear from, first and foremost, U.S. Attorney General William Barr. Bill Barr, he is being summoned on August 18th. That is a summon. That is not a deadline to respond. That is the date the Oversight Committee says he has to show up. And then there's U.S. Attorney General Alberto Gonzales, former U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, former FBI Director Robert Mueller, former U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch, former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder, former U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, former FBI Director James Comey, former Secretary of State Clinton, and, of course, former President Bill Clinton.
How come we're not hearing from any of those people right now? Are most of those people Republicans? Are we just spread across? Is this bipartisan corruption that's going on here? Why are the Democrats only caring about this now? Because they think they finally have Donald Trump in their crosshairs. And I don't think this is going to work out the way they want it to. I really, really don't. Speaker Johnson called them out for this today.
And transparency, or ensuring justice, or protecting victims of this unspeakable tragedy, the Epstein evils. And how do we know that? Because the Democrats had every one of the Epstein files in their possession for the 4 long years of the Biden administration. The Biden Department of Justice had the files the entire time. And not a single one of the people who are so loud and animated right now, they never said anything about it for all those 4 years. None of them held press conferences. None of them demanded the release of the documents. And under Biden's DOJ, when they prosecuted just Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, not a single one of these Democrats or any of the proponents of the discharge ever made any noise about that at all. So it's fair for the American people to ask the question, why now? Why suddenly are they so interested? They have such an urgent interest in the Jeffrey Epstein matter. The truth is simple and straightforward and obvious for anyone who is willing to look at it objectively. Clearly, this is a political exercise for Democrats and a few others, sadly, and it is as deceitful and dishonest as their pointless stunt to shut down the government. Same ideology behind this. Democrats are trying to use the Epstein matter as a political weapon to distract from their own party's failures. And in a desperate attempt, they're trying to somehow tie President Trump to the scandal. President Trump has nothing to do with it. He has said himself he has nothing to hide. And that's clearly what they've been trying to do. They're trying to attack President Trump. This is what they've done. They weaponized the justice system over the last several years to go after him, and this is their latest attempt. And they don't have a platform or a principle to defend on the Democrat Party side, so they put all their eggs in this basket. And that's why you hear endlessly about Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. Everything's about Epstein. Now, this was an unspeakable tragedy, we said that. And we have great compassion for the victims. And I'm heartened that I met with the victims. Our House Oversight Committee members met with the victims, and they deserve justice. It has been too long delayed. Not just justice for what they were made to endure, but also we need answers on why it took so long for the Department of Justice itself to do that job.
He's exactly right. Democrats had this for years and did nothing with it. Why are they interested in doing this now? Because it distracts from their historically low poll numbers. They think this is going to resonate with the American people. Let's go to the KVI audience. Let's see what you guys have to say. Matthew in Auburn says yes on Epstein. He wants to see what's going on. Mel and Roy says heck no. Jeff and Kent says didn't care then, don't care now. This is another one. Dennis, I'm done with the Epstein files. The past is the past. Let's move on. This one from the 253. Don't care about the Epstein files. This one here from, let's see which one we got here. Paul in North Seattle. Nobody's going to jail. There's no story. Rich people did wrong things, as they always have and always will. No consequences will arise from this non-story that has you not talking about immigration. I talk about immigration all the time, okay. This one here from Dan Smith. The Epstein files are Democrat kabuki theater. We already know who most of the dirtbags associated with him and his madam are. Karma is coming for them, so I don't really care. I want to know what they're up to while they're trying to keep us distracted. Yeah, now, by the way, somebody who's all in on this with the Democrats, Tom Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. I want a little credit for being on the ground floor, you might say, of the hatred of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I never liked her. But she doesn't sound any different than a Democrat. What's she mad about? As we discussed yesterday, she wanted to run for senator. She wanted Donald Trump's support. Donald Trump said, you're going to lose. You're going to lose badly, according to all the polling we have. So, no, I'm not going to support you for that. You want to run for Congress again? We'll do that. So now there's no fury. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. So she's all mad about this. So she is now in front of the Capitol with Tom Massey and Ro Khanna. Ro Khanna's a member of the squad. Tell me how that's America first. So they're all out there talking about how awful President Trump is. Here's what Marjorie Taylor Greene had to say.
I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. And I gave him my loyalty for free. I won my first election without his endorsement, beating 8 men in a primary. And I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition.
Oh, stop. You didn't stand with these women. You're just mad he won't back you for Senate. That's what you're actually mad about. Can we stop with the nonsense? You know what? While we're looking into things, I'm going to keep asking this question. How did you go from a net worth of $700,000 when you first ran 6 years ago to over $30 million now? Basic question. Well, to borrow a phrase from the woke right, I'm just asking questions. Just asking questions. You're a grifter. And you couldn't grift off the president anymore, so now you're trying to take down the president. You think you're going to create your own version of MAGA. News flash for everybody who thinks this. There's one person who's MAGA, and it's Donald Trump. Even after Donald Trump's out of office, it's not going to be J.D. Vance who's in charge of MAGA. He's going to have to come up with his own kind of thing. But everybody is fighting over this. What did the president say about Marjorie Taylor Greene's remarks?
Green said her life could be in danger because of the rhetoric.
Her life is in danger? Who's that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene, she says.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't think her life is in danger. Frankly, I don't think anybody cares about her.
She's a raving lunatic. She's always been a raving lunatic. Let me put this out to everybody. Name me a piece of legislation she's got her name on. She's been in Congress for 6 years. Name me a piece of legislation she has her name on. Tom Massey. A lot of people said, oh, he's Rand Paul. He just votes no on anything involving spending. You know, Rand Paul, I actually like because I like that he has the courage of his convictions. Tom Massey doesn't have courage of his convictions. He wants to take down the Republican Party. You want to be a Democrat? Switch parties. Become a Democrat. That's fine. Rand Paul may vote on everything no, but he is very rational in the reason he's doing it. He doesn't like the government spending. He votes for cuts. Tom Massey just votes no on everything. Oh, and he hates Jews on top of all that. These lunatics are joining forces with the Democrats to what? Take on President Trump. So let me make sure I got your narrative right. You think that the President of the United States is involved in a massive cover-up of the solicitation, trafficking of young women to Jeffrey Epstein. That's what you're saying, so why don't you just come out and say it? If that's what you really think, why don't you just come out and say it? Why don't you just come out and say it? Do you guys agree that you're done with this? Do you still think you're done with this? You want to know the full facts, but this is all a Democrat circus? Let us know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Leonard says over on the Warrior Injury Law text line that he's done with this. Let's just move on from this because I'm getting tired of this Epstein Files theme being brought up. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people are tired of this. Absolutely tired of this. This one here from the 206. Ha, Trump is funny. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, I like that one too. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, including, my friends, this one is gold. You have the people in Capitol Hill neighborhood of Seattle saying they're mad about all the crime. Weren't you guys the ones that supported the autonomous zone and defunding the police? You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I was not familiar with the nightclub neighbors until some neighbors of ours went to go collect an award from there the other day. Our friends from Northwest News Radio and Young Zach went to get an award that we won, and the award ceremony was held at Neighbors Nightclub in Capitol Hill, which is a gay bar. So some guy apparently tried to burn this place down, and the guy who tried to burn it down has now been arrested for arson multiple times in recent years and is back behind bars. According to Como News, prosecutors charged David Tate Jr. with arson in the first degree after a fire at the Neighbors nightclub on Broadway earlier this month. Quote, the defendant's senseless conduct in this case was extremely dangerous to the lives of those inside the nightclub and those in the neighboring buildings, said King County Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Ryan Turner. According to Seattle Police, employees at Neighbors called 911 around 10:15 p.m. on November 2nd to report there was a fire at the business. Surveillance videos from the nightclub showed a male in a hoodie approaching the entrance to the nightclub, lighting a fire at an alcove that was decorated for Halloween. The fire triggered the club's fire alarms. Firefighters responded, extinguished the fire before it spread to the rest of the building. About 30 minutes later, police responded to a report of a person lighting fires about a block away on 11th Avenue. A bystander flagged down a Seattle police officer and reported someone had just lit a fire under a pickup truck. Police located the suspect in the area, detained him because he matched the description of the suspect from the fire at Neighbors. During a search, police found a large can of butane in his pants pocket and a lighter. How big were those pants? Officers also discovered that he had an active warrant for a prior felony case of reckless burning. Now, here's the thing. You notice that it's a gay club, and yet there's no hate crime additions to this, because this guy's just a firebug. He'll go lighting anything on fire. Court records showed he has been charged in connection with arson and reckless burning for years. In October, he was arrested for allegedly starting a fire at the Pitts Campbell Apartments in Seattle's Yesler Terrace. This is a guy who's been arrested many times for lighting things on fire. Now, this is just a symptom of the neighborhood, because we are now finding out that according to Como News, in a packed Capitol Hill brewery, business owners, landlords, and neighbors gathered Monday night to voice concerns about crime in the area. The meeting, hosted by an LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce, highlighted recent incidents, including 2 shootings near East Pike Street and Broadway last month. The owner of a nearby Mediterranean restaurant said he's fed up. Quote, we need to feel there's a sense of safety, a sense of security on the streets, especially the gun violence, the fighting, the illegal vending. The city doesn't do a great job. Jackie Kent, reporter for Como News, asked if it was bad enough, would you consider moving your business? He said, yes, it's really bad. How did the Capitol Hill neighborhood get this bad? You know what I think we need to do? Mike, we haven't done this in a while. Let's dust off the DeLorean. Let's fire this sucker up. Let's set destination time, June 2020. Yeah, let's just go back 5 years. Nice, easy, 5 years. Boom, we're back. What happened? George Floyd dies. You have the riots. You have the autonomous zone. What do the people of Capitol Hill want? No police. Shut down the police precinct. Give the East Precinct over to the protesters. Give it to the community. Let's have a cop-free zone, and let's see what happens. Let's try a little experiment. Let's do a cop-free zone. Well, rape, robberies, and murders went up 250%. Surprise, surprise, that when you put the warlord of the autonomous zone, rapper Roz Simone, the John Brown Gun Club, Antifa, and BLM in charge of being their own police, things go badly. Surprise, surprise. 6 people were shot, 2 people were killed, all of them were black teens. Never mind all the rioting and vandalism and everything else that went along with that. Congratulations, guys. You got your socialist, crazy utopia, and look what happened.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Exactly. Gee, why is crime so bad in the Capitol Hill neighborhood? Well, do you think maybe criminals think it's still a lawless area? Mike, I'd say about once every 6 months we get a news report that says, neighbors surprised that crime is still bad in Capitol Hill. Well, a lot of you supported this insanity. You know, there was a court case today Molly Moon's Ice Cream, the anti-police establishment that supported the autonomous zone, sued Seattle over the autonomous zone. The case was rejected and thrown out today, which made me kind of happy, but at the same time, I still want Seattle to pay for that nonsense. But they're ones who supported this, those anti-police lunatics. So the case got thrown out because apparently it missed its statute of limitations. I think what happened was Molly Moon saw everybody else was suing all over this. They didn't do it. They were last to the party. They missed the statute of limitations. Sorry. Too bad. So sad. You guys supported this craziness. You can't support the craziness and then go, the craziness messed up my business. I don't feel bad for you. You know who I do feel bad for? There are plenty of people who live in Capitol Hill who didn't vote for any of this nonsense, who were afraid to go to their apartments at night. I feel bad for them. I really, really do. But I haven't heard a lot of them speak up. Rachel Savage spoke up. She's got a business out there. A few other people spoke up. But most of the residents, isn't this what you guys want? So you guys show up to this meeting to complain about what happened? You guys supported the autonomous zone. You guys voted for the politicians that surrendered your neighborhood over to the criminals. And guess what? Years later, the criminals still think they run the neighborhood. Do you know, to this day, people still ask me if that autonomous zone is still a thing here in Seattle. It's been 5 years. I still get that question all the time. Why is there crime there? This is the socialist utopia you guys wanted. And hate to break it to you, it's only going to get worse. When we come back, my friends, are Democrats that you know even going to be in the general election in 2026? Or are they all going to get primaried? We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. According to a new YouGov Economist poll, Americans believe Republicans won the federal shutdown battle by 33 points, and congressional Republicans net gained 4 points in the 2026 generic ballot. That means Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, you lose. That's what it means. And Americans lost because of it, too. Federal employees lost big because of this stunt. For sure, Chuck Schumer is going to retire, announce his retirement, because otherwise he's going to lose in a primary. Now, Hakeem Jeffries is going to get primaried as well. Now, while you're all excited about discount Barack Obama getting primaried, you realize that whoever comes next is going to be infinitely worse, because both these guys are going to be primaried by the left. What, you think AOC isn't looking right now, whether it should be vice president or Senator AOC? You think Hakeem Jeffries isn't going to get some wackadoodle challenger who's backed by Zoran Mamdani? Of course he is. And the other thing is, any of the Democrats who voted to end the shutdown, Tim Kaine, John Fetterman, they're all going to get lefty challengers. I wonder how many of them are going to lose in primaries. I don't think John Fetterman loses because he has enough bipartisan support right now at this point. But I think that somebody like Hakeem Jeffries could actually lose. It's going to come down to a fundraising battle. Chuck Schumer, he'll retire rather than taking the loss. He doesn't want that to be the end of he doesn't want a legislative obituary. That's what he doesn't want. Chuck Schumer is so desperate to have the Epstein files released that he doesn't even want to answer questions about how come you didn't release it for years and years and now you're only releasing it to go after President Trump.
Senator, on that note, just I guess a question that's out there. Why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Not every American, but so many Americans are asking. What the hell is he hiding? Why doesn't he want them released?
Wait, Joe Biden? Oh, you're referencing President Trump. Wait a second. Chuck, did you understand the question, or are you just spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning? Meanwhile, House Speaker Mike Johnson called out the Democrats for the economic problems we're having right now. They did this whole shutdown for one. Delayed economic growth costs trillions of dollars, and things are more difficult for Americans now.
I sincerely hope my Democrat colleagues will show the same level of urgency and enthusiasm when it comes to tackling the real issues facing the country that we got to get to. And that's what we really wanted to talk about this morning. Affordability issues are real, and the Democrats themselves created the crisis. Remember, over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, they spent like drunken sailors, and when you throw a bunch of new money into the system, it makes inflation rise, right? Republicans are ready and eager to continue our work to clean up the mess that the Democrats made. We've been doing that already, and we're going to continue to do it.
Right. I didn't see the Democrats having such urgency to reopen the government or find all the missing kids that the Biden administration lost. Don't see them urgent about that. But the Epstein files, let's get those. Dave from Sierra Nevada says over on the Warrior Injury Law text line, I'm enjoying the Epstein file saga because it further exposes the desperation and lack of any value of the present Democratic Party. This one here from Robin Lakewood. Well, I'm enjoying the Epstein files backfiring in Democrats' faces. Yeah, that kind of is my guess about what's about to happen. Have I read all of them yet? No, it's 30,000 pages that were released over the weekend. Sorry I didn't have a chance to read all of them yet. You know what I should do, Mike? I should just take all of them, dump them into ChatGPT, and say, how is this bad for Democrats? Just watch what it spits out afterwards. I got time to read through 20,000 files of this. I'm going to have to eventually, though. So right now, the House passed the bill. The Senate passed the bill. It's going to President Trump's desk. He is expected to sign this thing, which means they're going to release whatever they can. But you do realize that a court can still stop this. Here's something else you need to realize. And Alan Dershowitz knows this firsthand. Just because your name is in them doesn't mean you did anything wrong. What the Democrats are doing right now, President Trump's all over the files. So far, nothing shows he did anything wrong. And we're seeing that Democrats may have done wrong things, but they don't want to talk about any of those. It's just get Trump, get Trump, get Trump, get Trump. That's all they're focused on. What about the people who get smeared in the way? I'm very serious about this. I think the victims deserve justice. But if Alan Dershowitz went there because he had some legal consultation with Jeffrey Epstein before he knew what was going on with Jeffrey Epstein, he is now forever, people make the accusations that he was on the plane and he was on the island, he knew what was going on. He had to go to court to exonerate himself. How many other people are going to get smeared by this when there's no there? It's guilty by association. Plus, no matter what, there's going to be some files that are redacted for victim protection. You will never satisfy the mob. You will never some people don't want their names out there. Some of the victims don't want their names out there. I am worried about people who are guilty by association just because their names are mentioned in these investigations. There is something to be said for when you reach out to the FBI, and it's frustrating to me at times when I want to try and get a comment for a story, but when the FBI says, we do not comment on ongoing investigations, that's because as soon as the FBI says somebody is the subject of an investigation, do you know what happens? Does the name Richard Jewell mean anything to you? Richard Jewell was a security guard at the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta when the bomb went off. He evacuated a media tower where the bomb was. And later, he was investigated as a potential bomber. Turns out he wasn't. Turns out it was some other guy. But there are still people to this day who think that Richard Jewell is the guy who bombed the 1996 Olympics because a media outlet leaked that the FBI was investigating him. And there's a great Clint Eastwood movie about it that you should check out. I was fully engaged in that movie. I really, really liked it. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, my social media, holy cow, the hate I am getting on it because I interviewed Scott Pressler. But you might be surprised where that hate is coming from. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I'm not one who gets offended easily, but I'm a little offended reading some of the comments on social media, and I know a lot of them are just internet trolls. But ever since I interviewed Scott Pressler, something crazy has been happening with my social media account. So we interviewed Scott Pressler, the Republican activist who's very into voter registration. And he's been in Washington. He's on a tour. He's having a lot of success with the Washington State GOP getting signatures and our friends over at Let's Go Washington getting signatures. And he's had hundreds of people turn up at multiple events so they can sign these initiatives. The GOP one for voter ID, the Let's Go Washington initiatives, the ones to guarantee parental rights so that you know what your kid's learning at school, so you know what they're calling your kid in school, so you know what's going on with your kid in school, and the one to keep boys out of girls' sports. And the left that calls itself oh so progressive, every comment that's negative on these posts I've put up, I can't read them on air. I cannot read them on air because some of them are just that filthy. Attacking Scott Pressler's sexuality just because he's gay. What's fascinating is the comments follow a similar thread. They don't like me because I'm Jewish, and they don't like Scott because he's gay. And these are the comments on my interview with Scott Pressler. And it's not one post, because what did we do? I put up an article at kvi.com. If you didn't hear the interview yesterday, the full interview's there, plus the story about how certain people in Gig Harbor tried to shut down the event we had this weekend. I also took little pieces of the interview and put a few of them up. I think, let's see, across platforms on Twitter, there were, so on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, there were, I'd say, 4 posts on each platform, each one of these interviews. Every single one of them has the stuff on it. Every single one of them. I thought the left was supposed to be the tolerant ones. I thought the left were supposed to be the progressive ones. The vileness, the filthiness of what is being written there, it shows you who the left truly is. It really, really does at this point. In addition to that, it also shows you who the woke right is. Some of those comments are not just coming from the left. Some of those comments are coming from the right, which proves what I say about horseshoe theory. The far left and the far right have more in common with each other than they do with the center. It's vile. It's reprehensible. And I'm having a harder and harder time telling the difference between the far right and the far left, because it seems like they hate anybody who's not them, regardless of who it is. Something else, I've been having a little bit too much fun with memes, so much so that now I'm getting fact-checked by social media about some of the memes I put up. But I've been having meme fun with Katie Wilson. And I've been using some of the Democrats' own talking points against them about equity and equality, and watching the left lose their minds over those terms. Watching them absolutely lose it. Oh, now you care about this stuff? Like, they don't get the joke. They're not in on the joke that it's making fun of them. They just don't get it. What I'm seeing on social media, and it's not bots, it's actual people. These are real people. You can tell the difference these days very easily. It is truly reprehensible. So the left likes to think it's oh so morally superior. It's oh so virtuous. I'm seeing the stuff you're saying online. I'm seeing who you follow on social media. When it boils down to it, this DEI nonsense, it's discriminatory. It says, here's how we're different, not here's how we're the same. I do not care what you do in your bedroom. That is not my business. I start caring about stuff when you try to indoctrinate kids using taxpayer money. That's when I care about it. I do not care what your religion is. I care when your religion wants to kill people of my religion. That's when I care about these things. And yet, you see people have become totally unhinged over this. What, your word Scott Pressler might be successful, so you decide to do a little bit of gay bashing? It's beyond crazy, the stuff I am seeing on my social media accounts. I know it's nobody in this audience. This audience is more evolved than that. But seeing the stuff that's being written really shows you how the left and the woke right think. And it's truly reprehensible. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from our frenemy, Bennett the Protester. Bennett, what's up, man?
Oh, speaking of not getting the joke, so I can't believe I'm in a dad joke war by proxy with your kid, but I have another punchline to the joke they told you. What's a pedophile's favorite kind of shoe?
We did this one on Friday, dude.
Nike Air Maxwell.
Okay, that wasn't good. I thought it was going to be white vans. What's on your mind? What did you actually call about,
Well, I
Bennett?
know that was your punchline. I was
Okay.
trying to beat it. Okay, so you see, there's a new article about thing that happened with the Let's Go Washington signature gathering for the initiative thing at Gig Harbor.
No.
Now,
What article?
Okay. Yeah, so they talked to the guy who got the Let's Go Washington guy, grabbed him by the shoulder and pushed him out of the building. Now he, and as it turns out we are both doing public disclosure requests for the security camera footage that was pointed at the door of the gym when the commotion started, because the police said they looked at that video and they determined that he did not do anything wrong and they let him go. And so both of us were essentially blocked from accessing it, not because of anything we did. Well, obviously, in my case, not because of anything they did, because all I did was
Bennett, you got 10 seconds left. Get to it, man. Get to it. You got 10 seconds, man. I got to go to break. What's the point?
Well, you remember you said the only reason Let's Go Washington was able to use the facility was because they're not allowed to discriminate based on political
Oh, no. Let me
viewpoint
clear
as
this
to who
up
can
right
access
now.
the
Bennett, if you
resources.
rent a public facility for a private event, you can say who can come and go. You're not allowed to discriminate based on who rents the facility. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, Trump targets housing first and the Seattle Times loses its mind. Tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, creepy Chris Rakedall is even creepier than we knew beforehand, and California and Oregon are doubling down on dumb. But before we get to any of that, I have to take the Seattle Times to task again. They are an absolute garbage outlet. I don't know if you've noticed this because hopefully you're not reading the Seattle Times. I still get their emails multiple times a day, no matter what I do. I can't read their articles because they're behind a paywall. Oh, wait, I just dump them into the internet database and look at them that way? Yes. But I get these emails multiple times a day. And they are doing stories that are now a month old, sometimes 6 weeks old, sometimes 2 months old, trying to not give credit to anybody who covered it for, let's say, me and other people in my business. It's really fascinating to watch. It really is. They think if you wait long enough, you're not going to notice. This one was pretty entertaining to me because I had to go back and look up when this happened. This from Project Homeless. Who funds Project Homeless? Is that like Bill and Melinda Gates or something? Or I guess just Bill now. What is it? Who's funding these little things? The only reason the Seattle Times is still in business is because somebody gave Knox a grant. It's because somebody gave them a grant for these sections. That keeps them in business because they've lost so many subscribers and so many advertisers. So what's the story from Project Homeless? Seattle's homelessness response in peril as Trump aims at housing first. Mike, how many months ago, not days, not weeks, how many months ago did we have Dr. Robert Marbut on the show with Jonathan Cho, and Jonathan Cho is busy walking around doing the Jonathan Cho thing where he's got the homeless people behind him, who's up on Jackson? What was that, before the Jewish holidays? What are we looking at? August, I think? August, September, October, November. So we did that interview months ago. Now they're finally realizing this? Now they're finally coming up with all this? That shows you how effective the Seattle Times is. That shows you how good their Project Homelessness is. So I'm going to read this from the Seattle Times article to show you how screwed up their thinking is and how wrong they are, and why, if you haven't canceled your subscription already, you should do it. New federal restrictions under the Trump administration could put $41 million in homelessness funding for King County and Seattle at risk, jeopardizing housing for hundreds of households across the region. Stop right there. The money that is going right now is more good money after bad and has not been effective so far. Sorry, people who are formerly of The Stranger, who now work at the Seattle Times. Just throwing money at a problem does not solve it. On Thursday, the Trump administration announced, okay, this was like the follow-up to the follow-up to the follow-up to the follow-up to the follow-up announcement about this. We did this ages ago, that it would shift money away from data-backed long-term housing strategies and toward short-term program with high barriers, such as requirement that people work, stay sober, and accept mental health or addiction treatment. No, wait. Hang on. What you're telling me is the Trump administration is saying no more low barrier shelters or encampments where anybody who's got a drug problem, a felony record, isn't even a citizen of this country, can come in and the city's going to pay for them? Oh no, the horror, the absolute horror. You mean that if you want somebody to be in your taxpayer-funded facility, you want to make sure they actually are getting drug treatment? You want to make sure that they are actually getting mental health treatment? This is what I voted for. Guys, I already voted for him. You can't encourage me to vote for him again. I'm supportive of all of this. That would cut funding for housing for homeless people by about 2/3. Stop. What's the first thing I notice about that? 2/3. Isn't that like 70-ish%? About something like that? That's funny. I seem to remember Bruce Harrell saying something about that.
Now, make no mistake about this. When I said 70% of the people in Seattle who are unhoused are not coming from the city. They're coming from elsewhere. I've been working on these issues. My wife, too, is former CEO of United Way in Health and Human Services space. We've been working on this issue a long time.
Well, aside from Bruce Harrell sucking at these issues and working on it for a long time and only making it worse, that would cut funding for about 2/3 of the homeless people in Seattle. Do you think maybe because we've given them so much money and free drugs and free places to live and free cell phones and food vouchers and anything else they wanted, do you think maybe that's encouraging them to cut? No, really? That would cut funding for housing for homeless people by about 2/3 and jeopardize housing for 170,000 formerly homeless people nationwide. Well, I think your first problem, Seattle Times, is you're still calling them homeless. They're not homeless. The numbers here in Seattle, in King County, in Washington State are very, very clear. We have gone through these numbers many, many times. And I take you back to as early as 2018, 2019. When King County, when Seattle, when Washington were suing Purdue Pharma and all the other big pharma companies, claiming that the opioid addiction was caused by Big Pharma, they said over 80% of the people on the streets in our area were suffering from a substance abuse issue. That was back in 2018 and 2019. You think it's gotten better since then? Perhaps we should start by calling this what it is. A taxpayer-funded, a taxpayer-fueled drug crisis. Because that's what it is. That's what it is. Found out, Sarah Nelson, by the way, just took a step with the Seattle City Council, and most of them voted for it, by the way, to make sure that we're not giving out drug paraphernalia to drug addicts anymore. Wish she had done that 4 years ago. She might still have a job. Little too little, little too late. We'll have more on that vote for you tomorrow. I got to go pull some audio tonight. But what you're telling me right now is that 170,000 people across the country may lose funding because of this. Oh, wait, that's not what they're actually saying. Let's go back and be clear about this. The Trump administration announced it would shift money away from data-backed long-term housing strategies and toward short-term programs with high barriers, such as requirements that people work, stay sober, and accept mental health or addiction treatment. Let's go back to the headline, right at the top here. Let's go back to the headline. Scroll up. Seattle's homelessness response in peril as Trump aims at housing first. I'm only 3 paragraphs into this thing, and we've already exposed how dishonest it is. It's saying we're not going to continue funding the drug addicts to be drug addicts. We're not going to continue the funding to hide out using resources that are meant for actual homeless people. It says, you want to come to one of our facilities? You need to get a job. You need to get in treatment. That's what the cost is. It is free to you. But we are asking for a little personal responsibility if you want all this money from the taxpayers. Wait. Hang on. Isn't it the left that's always saying, oh, well, it's because housing is so unaffordable. Any of us are just one paycheck away from becoming homeless. Well, then you should be happy because the money's not going to go to the drug addicts anymore. The money's going to go to those people who actually need it. You should be happy that the drug addicts are actually going to get treatment. You should be happy that criminals cannot abuse the system and use the money that was set aside by taxpayers to actually help the homeless, to actually help the drug addicts, rather than fueling their habits. If this actually works and goes through, or you know what, better yet, let's not say if it works or not. If this thing actually happens, which is what the Trump administration is trying to do, and actually I reached out to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. I want to get the Secretary, Scott Turner, on the phone. I haven't spoken to him in a long time since I was at the White House. I want to talk to him about this specifically because at the White House, I remember asking him, when's the cavalry coming? and the cavalry is here now. So I want to get him on the phone and talk to him and say thank you. But if Seattle makes these cuts and doesn't decide to tax us to replace this lost revenue, you know what you'll see? One, you'll see a mass exodus of homeless people. That's number one. That is what you are going to see. Two, you might actually see the drug addicts on the street getting treatment, getting better. Three, you might see less tent encampments. This is all good stuff. This is what I voted for. But that's not what the socialist crazies want. You got people like our new mayor-elect Katie Wilson who want things to get infinitely worse. No personal responsibility. Government's going to take care of everything for you, cradle to grave. And we don't care that you don't have a job, and we don't care that you're a drug addict. In fact, there's organizations around here who supported Katie Wilson who want you to live a functional life as a drug addict. And I don't mean one who's had treatment. I mean a functional drug addict. So what's wrong with this? What's really wrong with this? Might be cutting off Homeless Inc. You know, Mike, I think I realized I have to do a little something. I need to do a deep dive if I can get the records, but Seattle Times is a private corporation. I don't know if I'm going to get them. Who's funding Project Homeless? If anybody from Homeless Inc. is funding Project Homeless, then that could explain why the Seattle Times is so biased for the failed housing first model. It used to be the Seattle Times had a shred of integrity back when you had a whole bunch of lefty Looney Tune council members who wanted to put homeless people in city parks. And you got to give credit where credit is due. Back in 2018, the Seattle Times actually pushed back on that. I haven't seen any integrity from the Seattle Times in a really, really long time. So the model has been criticized for years by conservatives, according to the Seattle Times, who say people cannot afford rent on their own, should agree to certain parameters before receiving government housing assistance. What's the problem? What is the problem here? The Trump administration has loudly carried that banner. The policy change could severely impact Seattle and King County because they built their homeless response system around a model called Housing First, a philosophy rooted in evidence. Stop. Show me the evidence. Show me the evidence, because I'll show you the streets of Seattle. How is it that you think this model is successful and you have only exponentially grown the homeless population the more money you have invested in Homeless Inc. in the failed Housing First model? Show me the evidence. In fact, who wrote this stupid article? Who wrote this? Alexis Wysend. We're going to reach out and ask her for these models. You know what you normally find? They're written by Homeless Inc. We're successful. Anybody walking the streets of Seattle can tell you they're not successful. You know, the U.S. Treasurer is in town. He was in town working with the Native American populations on some things, and he joined us in the studio earlier today. We're going to have that interview for you later. You know, when I was talking to him and his staffer, he said the same thing that my parents say when they come to town. I haven't been in Seattle in a long time, and I can't believe how bad it's gotten. I can't believe the people doing drugs on the streets. I can't believe what I'm saying or seeing around here. Because that's what everybody says. That's what everybody says. You cannot prove to me that the Housing First model works at all, because it doesn't. There is no evidence to back this up. And if there is evidence, quote unquote, using the giant air quotes, if you're watching the live stream right now, I want to see it, because I bet you I can debunk it in less than 10 minutes. I bet you I can. U.S. Housing and Urban Development Secretary Scott Turner said in a news release about the funding changes that such programs incentivize never-ending government dependency. Exactly right. But staff of Seattle homeless programs argue their rates of keeping people from re-entering homelessness and improving their physical and behavioral health show people are more likely to solve their issues while living in stable housing, not on the street. Really? Look at the streets. Why is nobody in stable housing? I don't see people in stable housing. I see people in tents. I see people in RVs. And it's the same people. It's the same RVs. The new criteria will run counter to well-established HUD precedent and practice, Kate Jacobs, a spokesman for Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell, said in a statement. Hey, Bruce, you want to know why you lost this election? Because from day one, you should have ordered an audit of Homeless Inc. And then, when you were leaving office, when you announced your concession to Katie Wilson, you said they are going to throw another $1 billion. Billion with a B, after the last $1 billion you spent on homelessness. So what, things can only get worse? Well, bravo. Really, just bravo. We're listening to Bruce Harrell on this, the guy who said that 70% of the homeless people aren't from here, the guy who said him and his wife have been working on this for years, and it's only been a colossal failure. They say the new funding policies pose an immediate threat to many King County's local programs. Good. According to an October 28th memo from the King County Regional Homeless Authority. Oh, are you kidding me? The organization that's up to its eyeballs in failure and corruption and scandal. The one that you've had Seattle and King County talking about shutting down. Oh, they're going to lose their funding. Oh, whatever are we going to do? Good. Good. Seattle and King County's homelessness system receives about $65 million every year from the continuum of care the program HUD uses to distribute federal funds for homelessness. The region could lose $23 million for housing that comes for social services, $13 million for subsidies up to a year to keep people who are on the brink or have recently entered homelessness and housing while they stabilize their finances, and potentially $5 million for similar programs. Wait. People who need to stabilize their finances. So forcing them to get a job is a bad thing? And for those of you who say, well, what if they can't work? What if they're disabled? There are other programs for that. We have lots of social programs. Unfortunately, they're all being abused by drug addicts, people with mental health issues, and criminals, and people who want to live off the grid. This is the easiest thing to solve. How about we try a little experiment? Try a little experiment. We did it your way for the last 20 years. We did it your way. How about you do it my way for 1 year where you don't fund these programs and you see what happens? How about you just do it my way for 1 year? That is all I'm asking. It's like what we saw in Washington, D.C. People said, oh, police doesn't work and National Guard doesn't work and enforcing the law doesn't work. Washington, D.C. is pretty safe right now. Maybe we should try that in other blue cities, in other blue states, and you might see that I am right. Let's do a little experiment right here in Seattle. Cut off the funding for all the drug paraphernalia. See how quickly those addicts stick around. Maybe, just maybe, cut off funding for all low-barrier encampments because they don't actually work. And say, if you want to be in these encampments, you got to get clean, you got to get a job, you got to go to mental health, or you got to go to jail. Is it really that hard? I bet you that if we put my model up against the Housing First model, which is a failure, a proven, documented failure, I'm going to win. Let me know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, we'll take some of your calls. Plus, creepy Chris Rakedahl proves why he's even creepier than we thought he was before. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. We've gotten some emails that something's wrong with Spotify with the uploads for our podcast. That's yet another reason why you should download the KVI app, so that way you can listen to us anytime, anywhere. Make sure you download the KVI app. So if there's an issue with Spotify, because we're not sure what it is, what's going on with Spotify, it's a very odd thing. Occasionally we get shadow banned on Apple, but this is new for Spotify. Mike looks like he wants to weigh in on this.
Well, you can always go to the website kvi.com because that's where I load the files to. So if you want to go back to the original source, it's on the website, which feeds into the app. So
exactly.
Either way, like I use Spotify. I've been running into some weird problems with that as well. I know we've run into some problems with Apple. So yeah, download the app and go to the website so you get the straight stuff straight from us and you don't have to worry about third-party shenanigans.
Exactly. Something else, by the way, I was trying to listen to Spotify last night. The whole app, it's had a bug in it. It crashed, had to delete it, reinstall it. It's still not working right. I don't know what's going on with Spotify, but yet another reason to download the KVI app, which is up and running right now, or go to kvi.com. This one here, we go to the Warrior Injury Law text line, and it says, Ari, and this is from Bruce, I, too, dropped my subscription to the Seattle Times about a year ago. Good for you, Bruce. You get the sound effect of seeing the light to a better place without the Seattle Times. What with the green slant of their climate lab and the nonsense of their homelessness coverage, it was just driving me up the wall. But if you can find out how much it costs to get dozens of column inches per week in the biggest paper in the state, perhaps conservatives should buy themselves a column and install their favorite columnists and writers. We could call it Sensible Side, or hey, this might actually work. Oh my God. Mike, this could be really, really funny. I should reach out to the Seattle Times and ask for the Conservative Lab, where we grow future conservatives. How much would it cost for a grant? Somebody give Knox a grant. Somebody give Hoffman a grant over here. We'll give him a grant. We'll figure out what's going on. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from John in Redmond. John, what's up?
Ari, I am fascinated by the gibberish put out by the light rail people, whoever they are. They're now doing preventative maintenance on the weekends, apparently. But I remember when they had a problem with the sinking rail. As though
Wait, hang on. I gotta stop you there for a second, John. Let me fill in the audience on the sinking rail, okay? And John, fact check me if I'm wrong about any of this, because I'm not a local. I moved here later. One of my favorite tours of Seattle is the Underground Tour, which we call in my family affectionately the Poop Tour, about Seattle's sewage problems and how Seattle was built in a bad spot and they used all kinds of fill to raise up the city. And then wouldn't you know, they decide, hey, let's dig through all that so we can build a light rail, especially in an area of the world where we have tectonic shifts and we have earthquakes and we're on a fault line. So yeah, let's dig underground to build a train rail. And then they're shocked one day when it starts sinking. Also, they didn't do the math of how many people would be on those train cars, because I don't know if you remember, after the sinking, they had the issue where there were too many people on the trains and the cables were separating, so they were breaking down after Seahawks games. Now you can continue, John, now that I've given you my summation of what you're talking about.
Well, the next thing was that there was as I recall, they were doing maintenance because of a worn-out rail. Well,
okay.
Now, what is the duty cycle on these rails? It's not happening elsewhere, but under the city of Seattle, rails wear out. Isn't that amazing?
Well, first of all, the fact that they have the same contractor and the same suppliers is a real issue when you question this stuff. Now, let's be fair for a minute. There are maintenance things that when you have massive amounts of weight going across a metal and you have temperature changes, they're going to break. But now you have the affected stations. I'm reading this from the release they have. Are Westlake Symphony, Pioneer Square, and Chinatown International District. Oh, you mean everything downtown and in Sodo? So the light rail that's meant for people to be commuters to downtown now isn't actually able to stop at those areas? A spokesperson for
the
Sound
beauty-
Transit. Oh, wait, hang on, John. Hang on. This is even better. A spokesperson for Sound Transit says the cracked rail was caused by general wear and tear, which was discovered by a routine inspection in the fall. The old rail was embedded in the ground, what makes it harder to replace. The rail, it was put in the ground rather on railroad ties, so it's harder to replace that way. You know what could have solved all this, John? Let's say we build the tunnels. I'll go with you and say let's build the tunnels. But instead of having a solid rail, if you just had high-speed buses, you could have solved it.
But you see, Ari, that's what they're doing. They are bridging this outage, or whatever it's called, with buses.
Yes. So why didn't we just do the buses in the first place? You could have still dug your stupid tunnels. Or you know what? You could have made actual bus lanes that made sense as opposed to the stupidity going through downtown. And I question why you need these stupid bus lanes when I never see any buses in them. All I see is people doing the fentanyl fold waiting at these bus stops. Can you tell I have a bone to pick with our mass transit? You know, Katie Wilson wanted to do Zoran Mamdani's free transit for everybody, but it's already free. It's already free. Nobody pays for this stupidity except for you and me who are driving in our cars. Right, John?
Thank you, Ari. Brilliant analysis, as usual.
I'm glad you enjoy that with a smile on your face, because I'm about to throw a computer screen through my studio window in absolute frustration at Sound Transit.
Well, I'm about to throw up. I don't write it, but I pay for it.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. John, appreciate the call. Appreciate you having a good sense of humor. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Yeah, if you're as frustrated with Sound Transit as we are, you can always give us a call or a text. We love hearing about Sound Transit. We love bashing Sound Transit. When we come back, my friends, lots more to talk about. Vice Chair of the RNC is going to be stopping by. Talk about the latest with the Epstein files, the latest with the shutdown, how it's affecting the economy, and how the Trump administration is going to try and fix this mess. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Well, my friends, after the shutdown, we now see what's happening with the stock market, and we see other economic factors, and I'm a little concerned about the direction it's heading in. So, to talk to us and tell us exactly what's going on is the co-chair of the Republican National Committee, Casey Crosby. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Such a pleasure. Now, thanks to Schumer and the Democrats, the Schumer shutdown, we now see that a whole bunch of money is missing from the economy when we're trying to have an economic comeback from the Democrats' disaster. What are you guys seeing?
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats totally own this shutdown. I mean, 43 days they kept the government shut down. It was the longest. It's been the most damaging shutdown. And you know what is most amazing to me? It's almost unbelievable that the Democrats wish that it would have lasted longer. You have them coming out publicly saying that we should have gone through Thanksgiving. And meanwhile, Americans weren't getting paychecks and benefits. And they utilized and used hardworking Americans right before the holidays. And they're showing absolutely no remorse for their actions. It's simply amazing to me. They put families at risk just to push their radical agenda. It's shameful.
It is. And I look at what's happening with the Epstein files right now, whereas this is old news. I think the Trump administration should have released all the files a long time ago, but it seems like the only reason the Democrats are doing this is because they were desperate to distract from the fact that I think they took a 33-point hit or something like that after the shutdown. The timing's a bit suspicious, especially given the fact of how many Democrats are likely in those files.
Yeah, you know, it's funny to me because we see the Democrats at their lowest approval ratings ever in history. They are at their lowest ratings, and they keep miscalculating on everything, whether it's, little boys and little girls sports or the Epstein files or the government shutdown. They just keep miscalculating. President Trump has been very clear. I know he said that the House Republicans should vote, which they have today, to release the files. It'll go to the Senate. He has said he has nothing to hide personally. The Republicans have nothing to hide, and this is just a Democrat hoax. And, we see them trying to distract from doing the job that the American people have elected them to do, and they have such horrible Trump derangement syndrome. They don't want to do anything as it relates to his agenda because they know President Trump is right on everything. So they keep trying to distract. And, it's really unfortunate because they just keep getting caught. I don't know. When I was a little girl, my mom used to say, now tell the truth. You always tell the truth. Don't lie, because then you start lying to hide the lie, and the truth always comes out. And that's what I feel like we're watching now is it's like they try to distract and lie about things, and eventually we get to the truth, and we see them for what they are for.
I have a different analogy. I remember this one time I didn't do my homework in school. And the teacher said, Ari, do you have your homework? And I said, yes. And they said, show it to me. And I pulled out yesterday's homework. And I'm showing them yesterday's homework. And they say, bring it closer so I can read it. And then they eventually busted me. That's kind of what this feels like to me. Where they're daring you to bring it out, and they're not going to be happy with what they see. And I think you'll know how bad it is for the Democrats if it disappears from the headlines the next day. We're talking to the co-chair of the Republican National Committee, Casey Crosby. And I think that a lot of this is distracting from what we were talking about earlier is affordability. What I'm concerned is a lot of young people still can't afford to buy a house. And you look at the way the economy is going, it may recover down the road fully, but right now, especially in blue states like where we live, here in Seattle, Washington, it just seems like it's getting harder and harder because of the things the Democrats are doing to us. What advice would you give them?
Well, I would suggest if you're in a blue state, I'm in a fairly red state, mostly red state, thank goodness. We have a Democrat governor in Kentucky. That's where I live, but we have supermajorities in the state House and Senate. We also have 5 of 6 U.S. congressmen that are Republicans, 2 U.S. senators. Not to brag on anything about our state, but my point is elections have consequences. And if you want to have good legislation, affordability, elections really matter. And sometimes when you just can't afford gas or, I was looking at gas prices out where you are versus where I am. It's insane how much more you pay because you're in a blue state and because of the policies that the Democrats have passed. And so my biggest thing is, if you want your life to be better, look at people who are going to pass good policy that make your life better. Stop doing the same thing over and over. That's literally the definition of insanity. And I can't understand why people keep electing the same people over and over to only have their lives get worse.
Yeah, it's exactly what's happening on out here. Now, when we talk about affordability, when we talk about energy, you mentioned the gas prices. I was in New York recently. They were literally half the price of what we're paying here in Seattle, Washington, and that's a blue state as well. Tell us about the energy policies of this administration that may make things better, because I did notice prices are going down, but it's not because of our taxes here.
Yeah, we see a president and his administration, and I think that the biggest thing is regulation. We see, and we're going to feel that, I think, think, huge next year as we move into the next year, where they are loosening up regulations. We're starting to see it even in household items like, HVAC units and stoves and things like that, because they are taking away some of these ridiculous regulations. And you see that with energy costs too. And, it's just interesting to say when you talk about the economy and people's lives getting better. I mean, President Trump, look at the investment that he is bringing back into our country. I mean, I think they announced today that Toyota is going to invest another $912 million in U.S. plants. We see inflation down under President Trump. And so everything, back to our original point, everything that he is doing is winning for our economy and winning for the American people. And the Democrats just keep trying to throw noodles at the wall and seeing what will stick.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like to me. So just in the last few minutes we have with you to play devil's advocate, because we are the most pro-devil show on the airwaves, are you concerned about these economic impacts going into the 2026 elections?
Not really. I think what we're going to see in 2026 is that we're going to start seeing the impact of the big, beautiful bill, and the fact that Congress handed us, again, one of the largest tax cuts in American history. They extended that. And remind you, every single Democrat voted for that. So I think in 2026 is going to be a year of affordability due to that big, beautiful bill getting passed. And I think people are going to start seeing the impacts of low inflation, investment because of tariffs coming back into our country. And, I think things are going to start looking up, particularly in 2026. A lot of these things kick in under the big, beautiful bill.
Co-chair for the RNC, Casey Crosby, thank you so much for joining us today and for your insight. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Look forward to talking to you again.
Always a pleasure, for sure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just to remind you, the best way to listen to the show is always right here at 570 KVI AM on your dial. But also you can download the KVI app and listen to us at kvi.com. For those of you having issues with Spotify, we are too. We don't know what's going on. So that's another reason why you should download the KVI app and listen to us at kvi.com and, of course, at 570 AM. I got a message from our friend Matt Gilbert during the break. And what he's talking about here is, he said, Ari, I have a solution for the housing crisis. Destination trailers. Relatively inexpensive, self-contained. Don't buy apartments. Buy or build parking garages for these suckers. And they are big camper trailers which you can live in. I told Matt, this actually reminds me of something I saw a few years ago at a bounce house convention. I kid you not, bounce house convention. So every year in November, there's a big convention for the entertainment industry, shall we say. You go there if you want to buy a bounce house. You go there if you want to buy video games. You go there if you want to buy carnival food. You can buy a roller coaster at this thing. It's a really fun event for people who never grew up like me. You could buy go-karts. You could buy costumes. You could buy mascots. Anything you want. It's massive. It's in Orlando, Florida. It was actually my first time in Orlando the first time I went to this thing. And I would go every year to see what the new things were that they were selling. And they had everything at this place. I would always take my kids with me because it's so much fun. So I remember one time they said it's VR laser tag. I said, what's VR laser tag? They say, well, suit your kids up. We'll send them in. They give them VR goggles. They give them vests. They go inside and they are seeing the other players as zombies or monsters or aliens. Very cool stuff. They had a whole section that was just video games. They had a whole section that's portable amusement park rides, like those things you see at the Washington State Fair. They had a whole section which is just carnival food. I said to my kids, all right, guys, gorge yourselves on the popcorn and ice cream and stuff because it's all free. They had a whole section on photo booths. But you know what else they had? It's for event rentals. So they had a whole section for the stuff you need to put on an event. What does that mean? Hygiene stations. So where you wash your hands, where the people who are not illegal street vendors, who are actually legal street vendors, the things they have to bring to wash their hands, porta potties, you name it, it's all there. But you know what else is there? Giant trailers for music festivals, specifically designed for multi-day music festivals, where your roadies sleep in these trailers. You can bring them along. They are bunks. They have bathrooms. They fit 8 to 10 people. Do you know how much easier that would be to solve our homelessness crisis versus the insanity they're doing right now? Do you know how much money you could save? You know how easy it is? They could be here tomorrow for a fraction of the price. You want to talk about sanctioned encampments? You want to talk about RV lots? This would be a better way to go. And instead, affordable housing. We need to buy affordable housing. Everybody needs an apartment. You want to do your failed housing first model? How about you try this instead for a fraction of the cost? I remember back then in 2017, 2018, young, naive Ari Hoffman took this idea to the Seattle City Council. They rejected it. I took the Seattle City Council multiple ideas, including, what if you rezone empty warehouses? And then inside the warehouses, you can rezone them for housing. And then what can happen is you can have your services there. You can have your job applications there before I knew about the drug stuff and the mental health stuff. But I said you could have treatment there. You could have whatever you need. And you know what the city of Seattle told me? And I met with Mike O'Brien. I met with Tim Burgess. I met with Bruce Harrell. I met with them at the time. They sent me to a guy at the city who said, sorry, we can't rezone it. If we rezoned it, we couldn't zone it back. If you can rezone it one way, you can rezone it another way when the crisis is solved. At the end of the day, they don't want to solve the crisis. They don't want to solve it. They want it to get worse. Because if the problem is solved, people won't vote for them, the tax money, so they can use it for other things because money is fungible. I found the solution to our actual homeless crisis at a bounce house convention. Seriously, a bounce house convention. They're not interested in common sense solutions. They're interested in blowing out the spending on stupid projects that have only made things worse. $1 billion here? Well, it's not our money. Why should anybody be accountable for it? Seattle does not have a comptroller. You may not even know what a comptroller is. It's basically a glorified accountant who tracks money coming in and money going out. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we never get accurate budget numbers? Oh, well, now the budget crisis is $250 million. Now it's $300 million. Now it's $20 million. Now it's $50 million. Nobody's doing the math. Nobody's doing the math. This is all a guessing game. And who's left holding the bag? You know what it's like? It's like if you gave your kid a credit card and didn't check up on their spending. You had no idea how much to budget for them. No idea what they're spending it on. Eventually, you get the bills which you have to pay, but hey, I can't afford this anymore. Holy cow. That's what this is like. We gave a bunch of politicians a blank check, and they are spending it like drunken sailors. And that's derogatory to drunken sailors, because drunken sailors, when they run out of money, they go back to the ship. In this case, when they run out of money, they go, give you more of your money. You could have solved something easy like this with the trailer solution. But I'm sure the left would have said, that's inhumane. You want to tell me sleeping in an REI tent you guys bought for the new homeless encampment that was set up a few blocks away from the one that just got shut down is more humane, more compassionate? Spare me. You guys don't actually want to solve the problem. Let me know if you think my solution will work. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, Saudi Arabia is in the White House. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? And is anybody paying attention with all the Epstein stuff going on? We'll tell you what's happening when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, U.S. Treasurer was in Seattle. He stopped by our studio to tell us about the 250th anniversary and about could the economy be about to explode. We'll discuss that with him. But I heard something at the top of the hour from KVI News. Did you catch that last little piece that they said? That last little thing right there? I love how when you're trying to cram everything into a 2-minute news break, you don't get all the nuance. You don't get all the details. Texas Governor Greg Abbott declared the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, terrorist groups. Why is he doing this? Because there are a bunch of mosques in Texas that are trying to buy land to build massive community organizations, and some of these communities operate under Sharia law. He doesn't want that happening. So there is a statute in Texas's constitution where if somebody's doing illegal activities or tied to these illegal activity groups like terrorist organizations, you can't buy the land in the state. This is something that's going to be appealed. Guaranteed it's going to be appealed. Guaranteed this is going to go to the courts. But why is it that Texas Governor Greg Abbott did this before the White House did this? Greg Abbott is right, 100%. How many times have we discussed CARE on this show? So many times that now you can probably recite my whole spiel on CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. Unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation trial, the largest terror financing trial in U.S. history, which is about funneling money to Hamas. They helped, allegedly. We know what they're doing now. This group is all kinds of bad news. Their director said October 7th made him happy. These are people who backed far-left DSA-type candidates in races, including Katie Wilson for mayor. They want that kind of takeover of the U.S., and they parade around pretending, oh, we're just a Muslim outreach group. No, you are not. They're trying to pretend like they're Chabad for Judaism. Yeah, just go around offering people cholent and tefillin. A lot of Jews are giggling right now. Anywho, they're not doing any of that. They're offering Sharia law. They're offering terror. They're trying to take down America. They have been doing this for decades, which is why so many members of Congress have called for investigations into CARE. The next time I go to the White House, please God I get invited back soon, my questions will be about this. Because do you know who their attorney was for a while? Bob Ferguson. Bob Ferguson was honored by CARE at their local dinner because he's the one who took on the first Trump administration over the travel ban. Because CARE wanted people coming here from hotspots like Iran, Iraq, Syria, Yemen. Yeah, not like we have problems with any of those places. Bob Ferguson wanted to make sure they could keep coming here from those places, even though we had no way of vetting them, even though they were likely terrorists. Bob Ferguson took that case as the Washington Attorney General, and they honored him for it. If somebody want to have some fun, you look up the PDC filings with the Ethics and Elections Commission for Bob Ferguson. You would find anybody from CARE who gave money to his organization, to his campaign. You would find any CARE-affiliated organization who gave money to his campaign. I'm sure you will find them for him and Nick Brown and other Democrats here in the state. After all, they endorsed a whole bunch of these guys. But now we're finding out even more. Do you know that today there was a protest on the Microsoft campus? Microsoft had one of their big conferences today where they announced new products. And guess what? A whole bunch of the anti-Israel lunatics showed up. What are you yelling about now? What are you yelling about now? There is a ceasefire in place. You wanted a ceasefire. The truth is you just don't want Israel to exist anymore. It's not worth pulling the video. It's not worth pulling the audio. It's the same thing where they're yelling and screaming like they did at Kamala Harris's event here in Seattle the week before where there was still a ceasefire going on. They just don't like Jews. That's it. But they're protesting on the Microsoft campus yet again. Why? Because they don't like that Microsoft sells its cloud computing products to Israel. They don't like that Microsoft does development in Israel. Well, pick another Arab country. Pick an Arab country you want them to be in the Middle East where Microsoft would be safe and secure. Can you name one? No, you probably can't. probably can't. Well, now we found out, according to the New York Post, that CARE was cutting $1,000 checks for anti-Israel agitators who have been disciplined by colleges. According to the New York Post, anti-Israel agitators who spread disruption at U.S. colleges and were punished by authorities were awarded checks for $1,000 by CARE. The money was given to students who faced penalties for leading pro-Palestinian protests, before and after the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, according to a bombshell report by the Network Contagion Research Institute and the Intelligent Advocacy Network. The cash was awarded from a Champions of Justice fund set up by the California chapter on Council of American Islamic Relations, CARE, as an institutional endorsement. In California, the largest arm of the CARE web of nonprofits, affiliates in San Francisco, Los Angeles, raised more than $100,000 in donations for campus radicals, while the main group solicited $64,000 in donations. You were worried about George Soros? He's not alone. This group was doing it as well. The money was then offered as interest-free loans and grants of $1,000 to students who lost scholarships, housing, and other support because of their quote-unquote advocacy. In October 2024, CARE California awarded $20,000 in loans and scholarships to 20 student protesters from the Champions of Justice Fund. The identities have never been revealed, but the institutions they attend were in CARE's literature, including Columbia, University of Pennsylvania, and Harvard. Looks like I'm going to have to reach out to these guys and see if anybody from UW was in these filings also. That means students suspended or expelled from Columbia University for storming and occupying the university's Hamilton Hall barricaded themselves inside the building with furniture and padlocks on April 30th, 2024, an incident which resulted in the building having to be stormed by police could have potentially qualified for $1,000 checks. NCRI founder Joel Finkelstein warned the Post these programs support students after acts of criminality and violence, creating a reward structure for building the most militant face of the movement. This is how ideologies metastasize. One testimonial published by CARE in literature about their fund read, "The consequences of my pro-Palestine advocacy have been swift and severe. As a safety marshal at a protest against the bombing of Al-Shifa Hospital," which never happened, by the way, "I was doxxed by Zionist students," oh, here we go again, "leading to my information being spread in the far-right media. I've endured relentless death threats, lost my summer law firm offer, and its accompanying diversity scholarship. This ordeal has sent me back at least $115,000 in lost income and legal fees, an overwhelming burden on my working-class family. Maybe you shouldn't have protested for a terror group. Maybe you shouldn't have discriminated against your fellow students on behalf of a terror group." Although the quote is anonymous, the details match those of Ibrahim Barmal. He was arrested on October 18th at Harvard Business School campus after participating in a die-in the night after they claimed the Al-Shifa Hospital was bombed, volunteering as a safety marshal. Give me a break. He also told the Boston Globe that his summer placement at a prominent law firm, that he lost it as a result of the altercation. He was later sentenced to community service and to complete an anger management program for assault on a Jewish business student during the campus protest. Yeah, it's a good thing you lost everything. He and others surrounded Yoav Segev, waved keffiyehs at him while yelling shame to his face, blocking him from leaving. I remember this video. Barnall never received any punishment from Harvard for his conduct. In fact, a year after his arrest, he was even awarded $65,000 fellowship by Harvard Law Review, a publication he had contributed to for graduates who plan to go in the public sector. By the way, this is your next generation of leaders in America, people like this. Barnall graduated in 2025. They let him graduate. And now works for CARE Los Angeles. Oh, shock, shock. CARE leaders backed many of the anti-Israel encampments on the second day of a student encampment at University of California, Riverside, in the spring of 2024. Hussam Ayloush, executive director of Greater Los Angeles Office of CARE, led a teach-in and gave a talk to anti-Israel protesters, according to the report. CARE says it is the largest Muslim charity in the U.S., receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations from progressive nonprofits, including the Tides Foundation. Oh, you mean George Soros-funded groups? It claims less than 1% of its funding comes from outside the U.S. However, when an ex-employee, Lori Soroya, filed a lawsuit against CARE for defamation, which asked for details of who their foreign funding sources were, a judge ruled they had to disclose them. The charity abruptly settled the case out of court. Why do you think that is? The charity had previously been awarded $500,000 from Saudi Prince Al-Walid ibn Talal in 2020. 2022. Let's pause here for a second. The Saudis are at the White House today, and they're talking about a $1 trillion investment in the U.S. economy in AI. The Trump administration is talking about selling them F-35 jets. And normally I'd say, hey, maybe this could be good. Abraham Accords, if they do this, the entire Middle East does this. But I'm concerned, aside from the Saudi connections to 9/11, now the Saudi connections to CARE, Saudi connections to other terrorist groups, I'm concerned for what this means for the U.S. I would be a hypocrite if I didn't say you need to trust but verify what's going on here, but you need to verify what's going on with the Saudis. What's the angle? What's the angle? They claim they want a Palestinian state. Have the Palestinians done anything to deserve a Palestinian state? They had a Palestinian state in Gaza. They turned it into a terrorist haven and launched countless wars against Israel, culminating in the October 7th attacks, which triggered the most recent war. What else are the Saudis behind? I am concerned about this, very concerned about this. I'm concerned, even though it's an investment in the U.S. economy, where are all the America First people right now saying, no, we shouldn't be doing these kind of deals? Where are all they right now? Where are they, them? Where's everybody else? Yeah, they're the woke right. I'm calling them they, them. Where are they right now? I haven't heard them say anything about this. No Jews, no news. I get it. CARE California is under probe by the Department of Justice and the California Fair Political Practices Commission over alleged financial misrepresentation of federal funds. In one instance, the charity took $7.2 million in taxpayer cash intended to settle impoverished immigrants in California between 2022 and 2024. The cash, which was intended to assist 1,800 Afghan refugees, only helped 177 Afghan refugees from 2021 to 2023, less than 10% of the total it was meant to serve. Much of the money could not be accounted for within CARE's official filings. This is their shtick, by the way. The organizations told the Post that they are demanding a forensic audit of CARE California, which received more than $17 million in donations from individuals and businesses, as well as the government in 2023. A lawyer representing CARE California denied there had been any misuse of funds. Great, then show them. Then show them. Why aren't they in your tax filings? Why aren't they there? Federal court records from the Holy Land Foundation terrorism financing trial identified CARE as an unindicted co-conspirator, according to legal documents which found ample evidence connecting CARE to the Palestine Committee, a U.S.-based group funded by the Muslim Brotherhood to advance Hamas, a designated terrorist organization. Do you see how tangled these webs are? Do you see how tangled they are? CARE counterclaimed that the trial of the Holy Land Foundation was deeply flawed and widely criticized and said it was ruled unconstitutional by a Fifth Circuit court in 2010. Okay, then why haven't those guys been let out of jail on appeal? Because the Fifth Circuit court was a bunch of liberals at the time who wanted to release the Muslims because apparently we're mean to them. Do you guys not understand how tangled this web is? And now we're worried about them investing in our state? How much worse can this get? This can get infinitely, infinitely worse. Well, what was the result at the White House today? President Trump was meeting with the Saudis today, talking about the Abraham Accords. Normally, I think it's a good thing they're in the Abraham Accords. You're not going to get a lot of countries in the Middle East without them. But is it worth the cost at this point? Here's what happened when President Trump was talking to the Saudis today in the Oval Office.
I don't want to use the word commitment, but we've had a very good talk on the Abraham Accords. We talked about one state, two state. You know, we talked about a lot of things in a short period of time. We'll be discussing it further, too. But I think you have a very good feeling toward the Abraham Accords.
Yes, definitely, Mr. President. We want peace for the Israelis. We want peace for the Palestinians. We want them to coexist peacefully in the region. And we will do our best to reach that day.
Okay, that's good. But we're selling them F-35 fighter jets right now. They're making big investments in our economy. Is this going to prove to be one of those deals where we went, okay, this worked out and we had some concerns and our fears were allayed? Or is this something where we're having the enemy at the gates and then we're inviting them in for dinner? I am very concerned about all of this. Very, very concerned. What do you think? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. I'm very concerned. And while everybody's paying attention to the Epstein files drama, how many people paid attention to this? Mike, I had to go looking for the stories on this today because all anybody was talking about was the Epstein files. Do I think the Epstein files are the distraction for this? No. I think the Epstein files are a distraction for the Democrats to try and pull up their bad polling numbers. But people are not paying attention to this kind of stuff at all. At all. You know, Mom Donnie might be going to the White House. Mom Donnie might be going to the White House to meet with President Trump. And you might say, well, Ari, I mean, you know, he's going to be the mayor of a major city, and you want them to have a good working relationship. Mom Donnie has literally supported terror. Mom Donnie has sung about how he's in love with the Holy Land Five, the 5 guys who are sitting in federal prison right now for the Holy Land Foundation trial. I'm not saying Trump shouldn't meet with him, but what's going to come out of this meeting? Trump's going to say, I like capitalism, you like socialism. Well, we're the odd couple. What's going to come out of this? That's my concern. That really is a huge concern of mine. Because this guy now said he's not going to follow U.S. law. He's going to follow international law. A lot of international law, which is actually anti-American. This is what Mamdani said recently.
You said you would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu based on the 2024 International Court Arrest Warrant. Next UN General Assembly, as mayor, would you do that?
So I've said time and again that I believe this is a city of international law, and being a city of international law means looking to uphold international law, and that means upholding the warrants from the International Criminal Court, whether they're for Benjamin Netanyahu or Vladimir Putin. I think that that's critically important to showcase our values, and unlike Donald Trump, I'm someone who looks to exist within the confines of the laws that we have. So I will look to exhaust every legal possibility, not to create my own laws to do so.
On the other hand, this is also a world event. Does that not count a little bit?
Well, I think we are a global city, but I also think what New Yorkers are looking for is consistency in the way in which we talk about our values and follow through on them. And that's why I think these warrants from the International Criminal Court, they are worth fully exploring every legal possibility to actually follow through on.
The warrants from the International Criminal Court also include the heads of Hamas. Why didn't you mention them? Are you going to mention? Oh, most of them are dead. You're not going to arrest those guys. But you're the one who is supporting the other side in this. You want to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu? That's who you want to go after? You want to follow international law? International law wants to tax every American to pay for climate change insanity. You going to follow that one too? That's Zoran Mamdani. He hates this country. He hates America. He hates Jews. He hates capitalism. He hates freedom. That's who it is. I'm all for President Trump talking to anybody until he realizes you can't talk to him anymore, like what he did with Putin, like what he did with the Rocket Man. But I'm very concerned about some of these meetings going on, and unfortunately, nobody's paying attention to them because the only thing they're paying attention to, Epstein, 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 Epstein. When we come back, my friends, lots more to cover, including Democrat on Democrat action. Looks like Marie Gluzencamp Perez is taking on her own party. Plus, creepy Chris Rakedall. Holy cow, what he did now. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Our friend Brandy Cruz from the Undivided podcast posted this earlier today. Washington's public school system sent an email to districts with sex ed resources. In it was an article that argues it is, quote, fascist propaganda to warn kids about the danger of having a lot of sexual partners. Do you guys remember those awkward conversations you used to have with your doctor when you were a teenager, where they would ask you, are you sexually active? How many partners you have? They would ask you all these questions that you didn't want to answer, that you didn't want to talk about. But apparently now they want you talking about that with your school teacher, with your history teacher, with your biology teacher, with your English teacher, with your social justice DEI warrior teacher. And in fact, if you even have a lot of sexual partners, then you know what? It's fascist propaganda. If you say it's bad to have too many partners, it's fascist propaganda. What are we trying to do here? What kind of society are we trying to create here? When will parents realize that Chris Rakedahl and these public schools do not care about your kids? They care about pushing their own radical ideology. They're sending out bananas as examples. Pictures of bananas. I don't even want to describe the rest of this. I really don't. Because you know what this is going to be. So apparently it's fascist propaganda if you tell kids you shouldn't have too many sexual partners because you might get a few diseases and you might spread a few diseases. And you know what? They're telling you it's fascist propaganda because apparently marriage is bad. What else are they going to be telling your kids next? This is the sex education curriculum for Washington State that is being sent out by the superintendent of Washington State. What is the line? What is the line for so many people? Is it expensive to send your kids to private school? Absolutely. Will you have any money left afterwards? Probably not. But it's worth it. Absolutely worth it for your kids not to be indoctrinated, for your kids not to be brainwashed by this crazy propaganda. Fascist propaganda, they call it, to warn your kids about the dangers of having sex with too many partners. You kidding me with this nonsense? You kidding me with this? I love how they're quick to judge the police departments. Oh, there's some bad police officers. And I go, great. Now, how about you do teachers? Oh, yeah, but they have things like tenure where you can never get fired if you're a teacher. Ron DeSantis is putting an end to that in Florida. Give a listen.
Reform so that now in Florida, at our public universities, all tenured professors must undergo review once every 5 years and can be terminated for poor performance. So you see professors leaving Florida, the media, well, they don't talk about the ones we recruit in. They talk about leave. Oh, a brain drain. And I think to myself, Marxist professors leaving Florida is not bad for Florida. That's a good thing for Florida. And so we're doing that. And we're also establishing civic institutes like our Hamilton Center at University of Florida, like our Adam Smith Center for Economic Freedom at Florida International University. I even have a liberal arts college called New College that was basically a Marxist commune when I became governor. Left of the left, no grades, low enrollment, low scores. I actually wanted to close it because it's valuable real estate right there in Sarasota. But the community liked it, so I'm like, all right, if we're going to fund it, so I filled the board with conservatives. They fired the president. They hired a conservative president. They were the first school in America to eliminate DEI. They abolished gender studies, and they said, we are going to be a classical liberal arts college. And so now the enrollment's high, test scores are up, and we're going to be the best liberal arts college in the country for conservatives. If we not already are, we will be very, very soon.
Wait a minute. You mean by actually spending time teaching actual art, literature, science, history, mathematics, music, performing arts? If you actually focus on those things, people will want to go to your college? If you focus on those things rather than DEI insanity, then people might actually get an education and want to go to your institution? No, you're kidding me. Well, what about Chicago? The Chicago's teachers union is one of the most out-of-control ones in the entire U.S. The Chicago Public Schools between 2021 and 2024 increased the spending of taxpayer funds to the tune of millions of dollars on things such as so-called professional development at resort spas, luxury hotels, and overseas destinations, going from $0.3 million spent in fiscal year 2021 on travel to $7.7 million in 2024. All that money could have been in the classroom. According to a report from the Office of the Inspector General over the Chicago Board of Education, taxpayer funds spent on travel increased by millions of dollars each year between 2021 and 2024, with $0.3 million being spent in fiscal year 2021, $3.4 in 2022, $6.9 in 2023, and $7.7 in 2024. Much of the funding had also come from pandemic relief funds. Oh, you mean COVID funds? Quote, fueled in part by federal pandemic relief money, CPS travel expenditures that included such items as airfare and lodging more than doubled between fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2024. Over $14 million was spent in 2023 and 2024 alone for mostly out-of-town employee professional development seminars or overnight student outings. The report stated that 8 different schools paid a vendor $142,000 with CPS funding in order to take 15 staff trips to Finland, Estonia, Egypt, and South Africa. The trips were professional development. Also featured numerous scheduled as well as optional tourist activities of debatable value, including a visit to a South African game park, a hot air balloon ride, camel rides, and a visit to a bazaar. 13 of those 15 trips were never approved per the OIG report. In one complaint sent to the OIG, a CPS principal traveled to Las Vegas multiple times to attend professional development conferences without CPS approval. The principal booked an unapproved suite at a Las Vegas hotel for himself and his wife that cost CPS more than $400 a night, even though the conference was at a different hotel, started 2 days after their arrival date, and ended after their 6-day visit concluded. Other instances of abusing the funding, the report stated, included multi-day education retreats at spa resorts or large hotel complexes that were less than 50 miles from work sites, had higher than necessary airfare or hotel rates, provide private sedans via limo service to carry employees to and from Chicago airports, an elementary school retreat at a suburban spa resort devoted solely to dinner, bowling, and game night expenses that the principal described as allowable team building, and hidden travel agency fees of up to 20% tacked on to CPS travel billed through travel agencies. Giving your friends a little money who don't work for the school system. Additionally, large contingents of CPS employees from single schools were allowed to attend out-of-state conferences in such popular tourist destinations such as Las Vegas and Disney World, when similar conferences were offered within drivable distances in the Chicago area. The CPS superintendent said during the years between 2021 and 2024, it was Pedro Martinez who was fired from the position at the end of 2024 without an official reason. Why do you think that is? It might be the trips to Vegas or Disney or Egypt. Maybe that's what it was when that money should have been better spent in the classroom. Speaking about how our money could be better spent, when we come back, my friends, the U.S. Treasurer for the Trump administration was in town, swung by our studios today. I'll tell you what we spoke about fixing the economy and why are we getting rid of the penny. I'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder so that you never miss a minute of the show, make sure to download the KVI app and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Well, historic moment this week, and everybody may have missed it. We are not making pennies anymore. And that's part of a broader economic push. And joining us now in studio, who's here visiting Seattle, Washington, is U.S. Treasurer Brandon Beach. Thank you so much for being with us today, sir.
Well, Ari, thank you for having me. Glad to be with you.
Such
Good to
a
be out
pleasure.
here on the northwest coast in Seattle.
You picked a good day. The view's kind of nice out of there
It's a
today.
great view.
Yeah, not rainy or anything. So tell me about why we're getting rid of the penny, because to me, there's so many out of circulation. Was it that and they're too expensive to make?
Well, they were too expensive. It was costing us right at 4 cents to make a penny. It was 3.79, I think, to make a penny, and it just didn't make sense. And, you know, this is part of President Trump's common sense agenda. He wants to save the taxpayers any wasteful spending, and this is what we're doing. The other thing that played into this is pre-pandemic, we were making about 9 billion pennies a year. Last year we did 2 billion. So we had we were going down in volume and up in price, and it just didn't make sense. So I said there's really no reason. So President Trump, Secretary Bessent, and I made the decision that we were going to discontinue the penny. Now, let me be crystal clear. Pennies are still in circulation. They're still legal tender. You can still use them. There's 300 billion in circulation. So it's going to take a while for them to go out of circulation, but we are not making any more. And I was very fortunate to have a historic event last Wednesday in Philadelphia and stamp the last penny, and that was pretty cool to do that. And but we just thought that was the best for the American people. Canada's already discontinued the penny. There's several other countries that have, and it just didn't make it didn't make common sense to do any more pennies.
Are there people in Illinois who are kind of mad about this right now, or they don't really care so much?
Well, we didn't like getting rid of Abe. Honest Abe. The story is that he would, when he was a merchant, that if he forgot to give someone the correct change, he'd run down the street and make sure he gave them their pennies. So he was, and that's how he got the name Honest Abe. Mm-hmm. But we hated to do that after 232 years. But times have changed, and we want to save the taxpayers' money, and I think it was the right thing to do.
Is this the kind of thing where you guys are discussing possibly reducing the amount of other currency, given how much the market for currency has moved digital, crypto being just another part of that? Is that something that's even being discussed at this point where it's just going to be digital?
Yeah, we're looking at everything. I don't know that we'll ever go to completely digital in the near future. People still like to have their currency and their cash. But we are looking at different options. I mean, right now the nickel costs 13.8 cents. We have legislation in Congress now to go to a different zinc so we can produce a nickel that only costs 4.5 cents. Mm-hmm. And we're going to do that because we can't have a nickel that costs 13.8 cents. So we're looking at everything. And that's, again, part of President Trump's common sense agenda to really look at everything and run it like a business and make sure that we're doing things that are good for the American people and the taxpayers of our country.
What other cost-cutting measures are there with regards to the Treasury, with regards to the Mint, with regards to any aspect that falls under your domain that we could be saving money at?
Well, we're looking at the nickel for sure. The dime and the quarter is good. The paper currency is good. But one of the things we are looking at is last year we did $470 million in commemorative coin sales. And with the 250-year birthday celebration next year, we've got 5 really cool commemorative coins coming out for the 250, and we're doing the FIFA World Cup coins. We want to do over $1 billion in revenue in commemorative sales. So I think there's a lot of growth. We don't want to you can't cut your way to prosperity. You also want to grow sales, and we want to grow our commemorative sales to over $1 billion in revenue.
Well, now that they're not making as many coins, there'll probably be something that's more interesting to people. We're talking with U.S. Treasurer Brandon Beach, and it's too bad we can't do the miles trick anymore where you would buy the money and then be able to pay off your credit card bill with the same thing. The airlines didn't like that one very much. No. So looking ahead to what the Trump administration is doing, modernization, cutting costs. Is there anything else that the Trump administration may be flying under the radar? Most people didn't even notice what's happening with the penny. Most people have no idea what's happening with the nickel. Is there anything else that they're looking at?
Well, I mean, we are looking at everything. But one of the things that I will tell you we really want to do is get this economy going good again. And, we inherited a mess. Let's just be honest. And I think President Trump in just the first 10 months has done a great job. You don't hear anybody talking about egg prices anymore. We're going to get this economy going good. I think the feds hopefully will lower the interest rates again. That needs to be done to give the housing market a spur. But otherwise, I can tell you President Trump's agenda is going good, and we're going to have the American people are going to start seeing the effects of lower fuel prices. We don't want to just be energy independent. We want to be energy dominant. And if we do that, I think if we have energy costs go down, then you're going to have food costs go down, transportation costs go down, and cost of goods will go down. And that's what we're aiming for right now. And you'll see that hopefully in the near future.
In the last few minutes we have with U.S. Treasurer Brandon Beach, this is a problem we're running into here in Washington, where the taxes are so high on something like fuel. Even though they're coming down nationally, it still seems outrageous here in Washington. I mean, just a few weeks ago, New York was half the price of gas here in Seattle, Washington. So what would you tell people in blue states who are dealing with this because of the Democrats who are in charge, who don't really feel like they're feeling the effects of what Trump's doing for the economy?
Well, let me tell you, I was on the campaign trail with the president. I got to know him, and I can tell you this about the president. He loves our country. He loves and respects law enforcement and military. But what he really loves is capitalism. And he wants everybody to be able to pursue the American dream, your kids, your grandkids, to be able to pursue the American dream. But he also believes this: government doesn't create jobs, the private sector does. But what we can do as government is create a conducive environment through fair trade, tariffs, low taxes, less regulation, an educated workforce, and infrastructure investment, both roads, bridges, and what I call 21st century infrastructure investment, the right broadband, cell towers, fiber, and so on. And if we do those things and get out of the way and interest rates come down, the private sector will flourish and jobs will come back, prices will go down, and we'll have what President Trump calls a golden age economy. And that's what we're trying to do, is create this golden age economy that he keeps talking about. But to do that, we have to put the tools in the toolbox and give the American public and the private sector those things of lower taxes, less regulation, educated workforce. And if we do those things, we will see the private sector really take off like a rocket ship, and that's what we're doing. And I think you're going to continue to see that through less regulation. One of the things I hear the president talk a lot about is, and he gets frustrated with, is regulation. It shouldn't take 7 years to build a road, for example. To do an environmental study to build the road, then it takes another 2 years to build it. So we've got to streamline those regulations and get things back working. But I think a lot of it, I think it has to do with energy policy. I believe that when you lower energy costs, then transportation costs go down. So chicken goes down, eggs go down, lumber, transporting lumber, everything goes down when you get good energy prices. And right now, I don't know what to tell the blue states except lower their taxes and cut regulation and let the capitalism works. Capitalism works. I want to tell you a story. I've got a friend of mine, I grew up in Louisiana, who worked on an oil rig for 2 years so he could save enough money because he couldn't get a bank loan to open a restaurant. It's called Raising Cane's. He's worth $22 billion now, Todd Graves. Mm-hmm. That only happens in America, and that's the kind of thing we want to bring back. And I will tell you this also, Ari, I think next year is going to be a really great year for this country. It's our 250-year celebration, and we've got an opportunity to talk about American exceptionalism, American pride, and American spirit, and bring back how lucky we are to live in this country and really prosper and have the opportunity to open a chicken chain with $40,000 and be worth $22 billion 25 years later. That's only happens in America. That doesn't happen in China. And so we've got to talk about capitalism and how lucky we are to live here. And we've just got a great country. I'm so happy I get to serve in this administration and bring back the American spirit.
It's really amazing, and I'm really looking forward to the 250th anniversary as well. I'm already trying to figure out where I want to spend 4th of July. I'm hoping to come see you guys in D.C. because I think that would be great.
Well, not only do we have the 250-year birthday celebration next year, we got World Cup FIFA coming, which is going to be big for Seattle, Atlanta, Houston, L.A. Where these and I'm not a big soccer guy. I'm learning about soccer. I'm an NFL college football guy, but I got to tell you, they say that having the World Cup here in Seattle is going to be like having 3 or 4 Super Bowls. And so you're going to see an economic impact, and it's a great way to showcase your city, too.
Yeah.
So that's what every city that's hosting World Cup should make sure their city's ready for it and showcase it so that you can get future economic development.
I hope that our mayor-elect is listening, knowing that they have to be ready for it. Otherwise, it might have other problems. Given what the president said yesterday, it'd be a shame to lose out on that. I
can tell you this, Ari. I was in Atlanta when we had the Olympics back in '96.
Yeah.
And we showcased Atlanta. And I got to tell you, we saw the economic development go straight out of the roof after people came and saw Atlanta, saw the airport, saw the culture and the workforce and, how affordable it was. And we really prospered after the Olympics. And I think every city that's hosting the World Cup has an opportunity to take advantage of it. And if they don't, shame on them.
I completely agree. U.S. Treasurer Brandon Beach, thank you so much for joining us today. And enjoy your stay in Seattle. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And everybody knows that President Trump loves McDonald's. So he spoke at the company's 2025 Impact Summit in Washington, D.C. Here's what he said.
I don't want to use the word commitment, but we've had a very good talk on the Abraham Accords.
Whoops, that's him talking to the Saudis. Wrong clip. I'm looking for this one.
I'm thrilled to be here with the men and the women who are really the heart and soul of one of the greatest, most admired, and most successful companies in the history of the world, frankly, the one and only McDonald's. I've gone there a couple of times. And I'm honored to stand before you as the very first former McDonald's fry cook ever to become president of the United States. And I actually was there for about 30 minutes, and that was 30 minutes longer than Kamala was there, right? Despite her job at McDonald's, that didn't work out too well. And the person at McDonald's that informed us off the record that she never worked there, whoever you are, we appreciate that. That was very nice.
I thought that whole thing was entertaining. It's still surreal to me that, you remember it was the McDonald's and the garbage man and everything. What a time to be alive. Well, now, and Mike, I'm going to need your impact on this because this is something I don't know about. There's apparently Trump said he really likes the Filet-O-Fish, which they used to serve at McDonald's. I wouldn't order something like that from McDonald's, Mike. Do I have that wrong? Is that something people are interested in?
People like it, sure.
Okay, all right. I don't know. I was told you don't get fish from a non-fish restaurant because sometimes the fish is, well, this is what Seattle people tell me. There's not that many of these places I can go to. The president praised the fish sandwich during his speech, offered a small suggestion for improvement, but his fondness for the fast food chain is nothing new. He's been talking about it for years. Let's not forget, didn't he invite one of the teams to the White House and he served a McDonald's? Now, my problem with that was he thinks he's being nice to them, right? But you go to the White House, you think you're getting a nicer dinner than McDonald's. Thanks. That's what we get for the bus ride home. I didn't hate the whole thing. I thought it was entertaining, but still, you go in the White House, you expect something nicer. I wonder if the new ballroom is going to have a McDonald's kiosk right there. I think that would be pretty entertaining, right? So you can have your formal affairs, but you can also have your lunchtime, White House mess kind of food. You just head on down there, grab some McDonald's, right?
Hamburgers for everybody.
There you go. Exactly right. So the menu for McDonald's is apparently, we know how old the McDonald's for the menu is, but the idea for the Filet-O-Fish was conceived in 1962 when Cincinnati franchisee Lou Groen noticed a drop in Friday sales in his predominantly Catholic neighborhood. He proposed a breaded fish sandwich for customers who abstained from eating meat on Fridays in observance of Lent. That's where that thing originally came from. That's pretty entertaining. You go to McDonald's in other countries, they don't serve meat. They serve whatever that country eats. Ray Kroc, the McDonald's founder, was skeptical of the idea, proposed an alternative, the Hula Burger, which was a slice of grilled pineapple and cheese on a bun. He and Groen agreed to test both sandwiches one Friday. Whichever sold more would be the winner, and nobody has a Hula Burger now. Instead, we have the Filet-O-Fish sandwich, so guess we know who won that one.
Yeah, not for nothing. I'd still mess with that. Because I'll get like a big Kahuna burger with a slice of pineapple on there. It's really complimentary. So skip the burger and just have the pineapple. I can mess with that. But also, though, never too early for a fish sandwich.
I always like the chicken sandwiches. Those are more my favorite thing. But now all these Wendy's are closing. We're going to have that story for you tomorrow. We'll tell you about that. That's going to do it for us today, my friends. But we will be back tomorrow with more insane stories and more exciting guests. You've been listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.